Chapter 197, A Change in the School Beauty. Ching Shui stared at Yi Wanwan, her face turning green in anger. She never thought that under Yi Wanwan's horrific and conspicuous makeup would be a face like this. And in light of Yi Wanwan's true face, her delicate makeup and gorgeous gown had all become a joke tonight. At this moment, everyone was staring in Ching Shui's direction. They all had a strange look and started whispering to each other. Yi Wanwan had removed her remaining makeup, was totally barefaced and only had on a simple white dress but was able to crush Ching Shui, Ching He's beauty, the dream girl of every boy, in her gorgeous gown within seconds. What's the meaning of this? Do you guys still remember Wanwan mentioned that she didn't reveal her real face because she was afraid it would bring about chaos? Damn, it was true. It's unbelievable. It's not unbelievable. We're almost graduating and it's only now that I've found out that there's such a devastatingly stunning beauty in our school. With her looks, she overtakes our big school goddess, Ching Shui, by at least 18 streets. If Yi Wanwan revealed her real face sooner, Ching Shui would be a nobody, right? Everything today was planned out by Ching Shui, right? She wanted to teach Yi Wanwan a lesson yet she ended up slapping her own face. This Yi Wanwan and Ching Shui were certainly Snow White and the Evil Queen. Amazing. Tonight was totally a fantasy. I can't get over this. The school goddess of Ching He for 3 consecutive years was actually defeated by an ugly freak. Who called her an ugly freak? Who called her an ugly freak? Who called my goddess an ugly freak? My goddess is the true beauty of Ching He. Whoever doesn't believe me, let's fight. We'll go by votes. Do we even need to bother voting? It's about time we have a change in the school beauty of Ching He. Ching Shui glanced at the looks of ridicule. Upon hearing those comments, she shoved the 2 sidekicks next to her and rushed backstage. She ran and tore the gorgeous gown off at the same time like a mad person. And as for the girl with short hair who suggested this idea to Ching Shui, who had planned everything and got Yi Wanwan soaked in makeup remover, she'd long been in shock. She didn't dare to approach Ching Shui now as she hurriedly buried her head and hid from her as far as possible. Amongst the noisy crowd, Shen Mengqi stood in the corner with her fists clenched tightly, a darkness looming over her face. Damn it! How could she? Why am I in a state where everyone's cursing me while that ugly freak Yi Wanwan can simply reveal her face and become the goddess of Ching He, even replacing Ching Shui as the school's beauty? How did things go so wrong? Ever since Yi Wanwan refused to leave Jean Garden with Gu Yuzhe as I'd planned, nothing's going the way I want. Not only that, but Yi Wanwan is getting more and more distant from me and getting closer to Jiang Yanran. Her phone suddenly rang. Shen Mengqi looked at the caller ID, took a deep breath and walked out of the hall. When she saw the name on the caller ID, there was a trace of disgust on her face, but the moment she answered, her voice became very tender. Hello? Brother Mu Fan. Did the performance today go smoothly? It was all right. Shen Mengqi's countenance was frigid. Tisk, smoothly. This ballet performance was the one she was best at, the Black Swan, and she was supposed to be dazzling tonight, but because of that incident with Song Ziheng, there were only jeers the moment she stepped on stage. Chapter 198, Go back to pacify him. The caller probably sensed the sadness in her tone and asked anxiously, still upset over that incident? Shen Mengqi started sobbing helplessly when she heard that question. Mu Fan, I feel terrible. It was obviously that guy's fault since he kept pestering and threatening me. Why doesn't anybody believe me? Don't be sad, I believe you, those who truly love and care for you would believe you. Why be upset over those people who don't matter at all? But Wanwan. Even Wanwan doesn't believe me. Shen Mengqi said emotionally, like she was extremely heartbroken. Upon hearing Yi Wanwan's name, Yi Mu Fan was silent and spoke only after a long silence with a much colder tone. If she doesn't believe you then so be it. I've warned you before not to get too close to her. Yi Wanwan's not worth being nice to. But, I've always treated Yi Wanwan as my best friend. It's fine even if you lose a friend like her. Alright, don't think about those unhappy events. Think about how you're going to be a big, popular star after you graduate. By then, there will be many people who'll like you. Shin Mengqi's eyes lit up. Really? Can I really become a big star? Of course, I'll definitely help you become the most popular and prettiest new star. After visiting the sickbay, Yu Wanwan and Jiang Yanran returned to the dormitory together. Jiang Yanran sat on the bedside and looked at Yu Wanwan, concerned. Wanwan, are you okay? Although Yu Wanwan always looked as if she didn't care, Jiang Yanran could tell there were many things buried in her heart, including her looks. There must be a reason why she wanted to keep things secret by not revealing how she really looked. Now that she was forced to reveal her face and had been seen by everyone, was everything really fine? Yu Wanwan smiled bitterly and threw up her hands. Honestly, there's a problem, and it's a big problem. Very serious. Jiang Yanran's expression changed. Why can't you reveal how you really look like? Of course it's serious because I'm afraid of attracting suitors. My boyfriend's the jealous type. Yu Wanwan sighed. Jiang Yanran was stunned and then sighed deeply. She had tried to think of what kind of terrible consequences there'd be, but in the end, she was rewarded with a show of devotedness. Yu Wanwan knew what Jiang Yanran was thinking about but didn't explain further. It'd be great if he was cute when jealous, but he's the kind who'll take your life away when he's jealous. In order to keep her life, Yu Wanwan had to quickly think of a way to deal with it. Yanran, I have something I need to discuss with you. I might not be living in the dormitory for some time, Yu Wanwan said. Not living in the dormitory? You're going to stay home? Jiang Yanran asked. Yu Wanwan was slightly taken aback by that question. Going home? I don't even have a home to return to. Yeah, I feel like staying home. I'm a little homesick. Yu Wanwan could only go with what Jiang Yanran said. I can't possibly reply saying that I'm going back to pacify a great devil, right? I heard what Shin Mengqi said about you fighting really badly with your family before. It's good that you've thought it through now. Every parent cares for their child. Just clear the air if there's any misunderstandings. Don't wait till it's too late. Jiang Yanran advised. Yu Wanwan nodded. Yep, got it. Chapter 199, Miss you to the point where I can't sleep before sleeping. Yu Wanwan sent a text to Si Yihan. Darling, I miss you so much. I miss you so much that I can't fall asleep every night. I've decided to apply for day school and not live in the dormitory anymore, so from next Friday onwards, I'll be able to go home every day. Are you happy? Since Qin Ruo she was back from Shin City, she had more control at Si Yihan's side. Plus, with major exams coming up, she could take this chance to get Si Yihan to tutor her in math, killing two birds with one stone. Within minutes, her phone rang. Si Yihan replied with a word, yep. Yu Wanwan hid under the blanket and laughed. I wonder what Si Yihan's expression is each time he reads my mushy text messages. I really admire him for replying to me so calmly each time. Oh yeah. Is Great White at home? I really want to play with Great White. Yu Wanwan asked further. Oh, I really miss Great White. I'm not sure whether Great White's at Jean Garden. This time, he took a longer time to reply, at home. That's great. Thinking about her cabbage and Great White, Yu Wanwan didn't feel so repulsed towards Jean Garden anymore. Midnight at the Jean Garden, Sooo was summoned by his master all of a sudden and tasked with a job that sounded ridiculous. Si Yihan, get Si Lute back here. Ah. Sooo was dumbfounded. It's the middle of the night and he wants me to go to the mountains to look for Si Lute? I don't even know where to hunt. Where can I go to find Si Lute? It's such a windy and moonless night. Isn't the master worried that I'll be eaten by the beast? Is there a problem? Si Yihan looked at him. No. There isn't. I'll go look for it now. Find it before Friday. Yes, Sooo accepted his orders bitterly and went on to look for the tiger, covering the mountains and plains. He really couldn't think of a reason why he had to find Si Lute so urgently. And I have to find it by Friday? The next morning, Yi Wanwan took out her huge makeup bag out of habit. After she took it out, she realized that she'd already blown her cover the night before. So, do I put on the makeup or not? If she continued putting it on, it would just make her look more conspicuous. But the consequence of not putting it on wasn't any better either. Yi Wanwan was still debating internally when there was a sudden din downstairs and she heard her name vaguely. Why's it so noisy? Yi Wanwan knitted her brows. Jiang Yanran walked in from the balcony and looked at her. She was hesitant to speak, but in the end, she helplessly said, "Go see for yourself." Yi Wanwan was confused. What's going on? Yi Wanwan put her makeup brushes down, scratched her head and walked towards the balcony. Goddess. 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 Wanwan the goddess. The goddess is out. Goddess, I love you. The goddess looks just like an angel when she wakes up. Ow ow ow. Goddess, I have a chromosome passed down from generations that I want to give to you. Yi Wanwan nearly turned deaf from the shouts when she reached the balcony. At this moment, she realized that the dense mass of people downstairs were mostly guys shouting. And the few windows nearby in the girls' dormitory were all open. Everyone was sticking their heads out to watch the fun, totally trying to stir up trouble. The dormitory caretaker had come out to warn them about the loud noise several times, but that didn't work. Yi Wanwan felt extremely awkward. Even though she sort of expected some trouble like this, it was way worse than she imagined. There was no wonder. So many people took pictures and videos last night, and this news had definitely gone around already. In addition, the lives of students were very dull and boring, so a little gossip can go on, not to mention such shocking news like what happened last night. Chapter 200, Do I Look Good? Standing at the side, Jiang Yanran said helplessly, "Since things have reached this point, there's no use even if you keep putting on that makeup." Yi Wanwan was in a daze. In the end, she placed the huge makeup bag back into the cupboard. Her first sin was this face of hers, it was her weakness. After hiding for so long, this was the first time Yi Wanwan was barefaced. She first gave herself a moisturizing face mask, then packed away all her hideous clothes. To replace those were clothes that she'd sealed in a box for a very long time, a variety of pink and pretty dresses that were once her favorites. They represented the teenage years that she'd lost. Yi Wanwan combed her long hair and pinned up a few loose strands of hair at the side with a clip shaped like a musical note. Following that, she changed into a burgundy dress. It was an off-the-shoulder design with flowy, butterfly sleeves. The hem was like a blooming flower, while the intricate tailoring outlined her slender waist and curves, and the color of the skirt brought out the fairness of her skin, which was already as white as snow. Looking at herself in the mirror in that dress, Yi Wanwan was in a daze. This was the present that Yi Mu Fan gave her on her birthday 2 years ago. There was no denying how great Yi Mu Fan's tastes were. Even after 2 years, this dress was still on trend. It was a pity that her relationship with her family and Yi Mu Fan at that time were already becoming estranged, and not long after, they had a big fight, after which she cut ties with her parents and fought very badly with Yi Mu Fan. She never ended up wearing this dress. Her father lost everything in order to protect her. Due to Shen Mengqi's meddling, it was as if Wanwan was possessed and voluntarily wanted to cut ties with her parents. Mu Fan must have resented having such a stupid and heartless younger sister. Because of her, the Yi family had a change of ownership. Everything that her father worked hard for was gone. Mu Fan also lost the glory of being the Yi family's young master and lost the right to love someone. She caused the family to be in this state, but because they were worried that she wouldn't be able to handle the truth, everyone hid it from her. She, the main culprit, was completely ignorant, going on with her life heartlessly, and was head over heels with a scumbag who turned his back on her and called off the engagement once her father lost power. She could only blame herself for being so useless and weak that her family had to sacrifice so much for her. Yi Wanwan drew back from her memories as she pushed the door open and walked out of the bathroom. "Do I look good?" Yi Wanwan asked. The moment Jiang Yanran turned and saw the girl, a phrase came to mind, a real beauty with the flesh of ice and bones of jade. In this world, some people are really favored by the Creator. Gr. Great, Jiang Yanran replied, stunned. Last night, Yuanwan was already stunning in a simple white dress and casually let down long hair. That couldn't compare to when she really dolled herself up. Yuanwan gathered herself together. I'm heading to class then. Oh, at this moment, Jiang Yanran suddenly truly understood how Yuanwan's boyfriend felt. With a girlfriend who looked like that, he definitely wouldn't be able to feel at ease at all. Chapter 201, You're Old and Disrespectful. The whole class went silent when Yuanwan appeared at the door to Class F. Qingshui already expected that this would happen and had dolled up early in the morning as if in preparation for her enemy's arrival. She even made sure that there wasn't a single crease on her dress, but who knew that Yuanwan's appearance would simply take away all the attention. Initially, he seemed to be expecting something, but the moment the restless Xia saw Yuanwan at the door, the hand supporting his chin slipped and his face nearly smashed onto the table. Still, he didn't take his eyes off her. Everything happened so quickly last night that he couldn't see clearly and wasn't able to confirm what he'd seen. Yet the girl in the red dress in front of him unexpectedly overlapped with a figure in his memory. This face of Yuanwan, especially when she was in this red dress, truly resembled the person in his memory. Yuanwan didn't notice the bewildered gaze of Xia. She pulled her chair out and sat down on her seat. When everyone saw the girl sitting down next to Xia, sure that she was Yuanwan, there was an outburst of excitement throughout the class. Damn! She's too beautiful. This is simply unbelievable. That ugly freak, Yuanwan, is really beautiful. She's even better looking than last night. Compared to the great school beauty Cheng Rong, its ex-great school beauty Cheng, she's even more beautiful. Can she get any prettier? Hearing the gasps of surprise in class coming one after another, especially the phrase, ex-school beauty, Cheng Shui bit her lips so hard in exasperation that they nearly bled. At this moment, the two girls sitting in front of Cheng Shui rebutted unhappily, how is she even pretty? She's just a so-so. A far cry from our Cheng Shui. That's right. What kind of taste do you boys have? You actually fell for a vixen like her. Jealousy causes one to be ugly, a boy said profoundly. When the girl heard that, she screamed, who's ugly? You're the one who's ugly. Your whole family's ugly. Whoever's answering is the ugly one and probably even blind. While a small group of people were making a fuss, Yuanwan tried to shove her books into her desk. In the end, she couldn't get them in at all. What's going on? Is there something in my desk again? Yuanwan buried her head and looked. What she found were many brightly colored things inside. Love letters, chocolates, sweets. She was really flattered and overwhelmed. In the past, if it wasn't a dead rat, it would be a caterpillar. Yuanwan suddenly noticed a certain someone next to her staring, but this time, she kept her cool. Anyway, she was in so much debt now that she wasn't bothered by him anymore. Tisk, Xia clicked his tongue. Yuanwan found a bag to put all these things in and emptied everything out from her desk before she managed to stuff her books in finally. Then, she turned her head and glared at him, what do you want now? Xia held his head, looked at her and scoffed. With a look of pity, he said, if you looked like that sooner, would you have been mocked for so long? Yuanwan rolled her eyes at him, as long as my baby likes it. For my baby, I'd even dress up as a ghost if he likes it, much less be ugly. Leave me alone. Baby. He heard how Yuanwan called Siyihan and nearly vomited blood. Yuanwan raised her brows, her little face as brilliant as the sun, what about me? Xia, you're old and disrespectful. Yuanwan, he's ruthless. Attacking my age since he can't attack my looks, huh? Chapter 202, Call me Big Brother and I'll teach you. The school bell rang and the class finally quieted down. Almost every teacher from every class had to ask who she was and even suspected that she was an imposter there to attend class for Yuanwan. Oh please, am I so dumb? If I wanted to find someone to replace me, I would have found someone who resembles me right. In the blink of an eye, it was the afternoon already. In the meantime, aside from being interrogated by the teachers every class, she was being watched as well. Almost everyone from various levels came over, as if to watch something fascinating. Yi Wanwan rubbed her chin and muttered, "Keep looking at me and I'm going to have to collect tickets." Xia quickly gave her a wink, "Let's do it together. I think we'll be rich if we work together." Yi Wanwan looked out of the window as the skies grew darker. "Why is it suddenly so chilly?" "Because of the typhoon. The weather today will be colder, don't you know?" Xia replied. "You're actually in the habit of checking the weather forecast?" Yi Wanwan was surprised. "I don't." "Then how did you know?" Xia pulled out his phone and showed it to her. She saw a big chunk of lovely text messages reminding him to keep himself warm due to the weather changes. Yi Wanwan, fine, he has countless young fangirls doing the checking for him. Sure enough, it started pouring outside and the weather got colder. But nobody was dressed warmly, just like her, since after all, the weather yesterday was as hot as summer and there was no indication of a change in weather in the morning as well. She only had a dress on and the clothes in her dorm were all summer outfits, she didn't even have a jacket. Xia glanced at her, "Cold?" Yi Wanwan was speechless, obviously. Xia sighed, "I can't help you even if you're cold, I've only brought one jacket. If I took it off for you, I might not be able to keep my chastity." Yi Wanwan, no need, thanks." As Xia spoke, he suddenly shot a look towards the door, "However, your jacket delivery army should arrive very soon." "What jacket delivery army?" The moment Xia made that comment, a fair-skinned and young junior stood by the door, looked towards Yi Wanwan and stammered, "Hello senior, I'm Zhang Rui from junior year class A. The weather is so cold today and you're wearing so little, you'll fall ill like that. Why don't you put this on?" "Damn! Where did this brat come from? How dare he come to our turf and steal our chick? Let's get him, brothers. It's so shameful if the juniors snatched our school beauty from us." The boys in F class suddenly raged. Thus, not long after, a heap of clothes piled up before Yi Wanwan. "No thanks, I'm not cold." "How could you not be cold?" "Senior, you're sneezing." "I'll just go back to the dorm to get one." "How can you do that? It's pouring outside right now." "Really, I'm good, you need it. While Yi Wanwan was rejecting each one of them, Xia's jacket delivery army arrived as well. A sweet young lady stood in front with a black men's coat in her hands. "Xia, why are you wearing so little? You were sick before, you better not catch a cold. If you don't mind, put this on. I just borrowed it from my brother in the next class." Xia replied plainly, "No need, I'm not used to wearing someone else's clothes." It's like this, all right then." The young girl walked away in disappointment with the coat and all the other girls, who were itching to have a go, left as well. Yi Wanwan, who was still fighting her battles, gasped in amazement as she watched from the side. Amazing! He managed to deal with all of them with just one comment. Xia seemed to read her mind and a smile appeared across his face. "What's up, do you want to take some lessons from me? Call me big brother and I'll teach you." The corners of Yi Wanwan's mouth twitched. "I'll call you grandpa. Who wants to learn these things?" Chapter 203, I really have to hand it to you, achoo. Yi Wanwan sneezed as the wind blew right into her face. She had no choice, she was seated in the first row facing the door and the cold wind was blowing right through. Due to the weather changes, there were many anxious parents who delivered clothes to their children personally and some got their helpers to deliver them to their little babies. Yi Wanwan was contemplating whether to head back to her dorm in the snow to get a blanket when she saw a familiar figure opposite, near Class A. The moment she saw that person, Yi Wanwan's expression changed and she stood up immediately. "Big brother. What she saw was Shin Meng-chi walking out of her classroom in a flimsy dress as Yimu Fan took out a long coat from the bag in his hand. He wrapped Shin Meng-chi up tightly, rubbed her hands for some warmth and then spoke to her with a loving expression. It was as if Yi Wanwan lost her soul when she stood there watching that scene. Her eyes turned red immediately. Si Xia immediately took notice of Yi Wanwan acting differently. He raised his brows and looked in the direction that she was staring at, and first saw Shin Meng-chi before seeing a tall and handsome man. Even with his high standards, he had to admit that the handsome man was a rare sight, and what shocked him was that this man seemed to resemble Yi Wanwan. "Hey! What are you doing? Looking at cute guys?" Si Xia asked in confusion. Yi Wanwan didn't react at all. Her sight kept following that man, looking at him fussing and nagging at Shin Meng-chi, looking at him walking Shin Meng-chi back to class and watching him go downstairs and driving out of the school's gate. Until that car vanished into the snow, Si Xia watched as Yi Wanwan's tears streamed down. Seeing that Yi Wanwan was crying all of a sudden, Si Xia was in shock. Hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you crying suddenly? Are you all right? Yi Wanwan continued looking in the direction of Yimu Fan, leaving as her tears continued streaming down silently, completely out of her control. After some time, Yi Wanwan sat down sluggishly and laid her head on the desk. She covered her tear-stained face and her shoulders shook slightly as she started to sob lightly. Bad person. He knew that she and Shin Meng-chi were in the same school. He knew that she'd be in the classroom just opposite of Shin Meng-chi's, yet he delivered a coat only to Shin Meng-chi and forgot about her completely. Was this punishment? If it was, he succeeded. I'm so depressed and hurt, I feel like I'm almost dying. When she thought about her older brother, who once loved her so much, giving everything to Shin Meng-chi. But she was the one who caused everything to go this way. This was the first time ever since she was reborn that she couldn't control her emotions at all and didn't want to control them anymore. It was too difficult to bear. Si Xia was at a loss. Yi Wanwan, what exactly happened? Bad person? Who's the bad person? Don't cry anymore. He kept disturbing her and her head was on the verge of breaking. Don't bother me, I'm cold so I'm crying, alright? Si Xia pursed his lips tightly and stared at her crying on her desk as he muttered softly, I really have to hand it to you. He then grabbed the edge of the t-shirt he was wearing, casually flipped it over and managed to remove his top seamlessly. Then, he forcefully placed it over Yi Wanwan. The class went silent for an entire 10 seconds. Following that, they ogled at Si Xia's naked upper body, his collarbone, muscles. Every girl in class let out a scream as if an atomic bomb had exploded. Ah. Ah. Chapter 204, Attracting Tons of Hatred. What a treat. The hunk actually took off his clothes right in front of them. This kind of excitement was simply earth-shattering for these fangirls. In a split second, the roof of Class F was almost torn down by the screams from the girls. Si Xia frowned at the ruckus. Troublesome, he knew this would happen. As for Yi Wanwan, she lifted her head and saw Si Xia sitting there half-naked, his clothing covering her. Yi Wanwan was in shock. I only cried for a little while, what exactly happened? Damn! What's wrong with you? Weren't you cold? You were so cold that you started crying. Si Xia replied as a matter of fact. I was just casually saying that. Can't you tell? Furthermore, even if I really did cry from the cold, what's the use of this tiny, tattered and thin piece of clothing? The only use it has is to attract tons of hatred for me. Now, not only the girls in F class but the girls in the opposite classrooms were going crazy after receiving the news as well. Class A, a group of people crowded around Shin Meng-chi asking her questions. Hey, Shin Meng-chi, the guy who brought the coat for you just now, was he Ching-he's XXX school hunk? After being neglected for a period of time, Shin Meng-chi's eyes lit up when people spoke to her voluntarily. She nodded and explained, he's brother Mu Fan, my dad asked him to bring it over to me since he was on the way. I knew it. After so many years, he hasn't changed and even became better looking. You're so lucky to have the hunk delivering a coat to you personally. When the crowd saw the branded coat on Shin Meng-chi, they inevitably felt a bit jealous. Tisk, Shin Meng-chi was just a little follower of Yi Wanwan in the past and she had a chance to get close to the hunk all because of Yi Wanwan. Now the hunk is working for her family and was even ordered to deliver a coat to her. As the saying goes, every dog has its day. The Yi family's unlucky. Everyone was having a discussion when all of a sudden, an outburst of screams erupted from Class F. Thus, everybody forgot about Shin Meng-chi. They stuck their heads out and looked across curiously. What's going on? What's going on? What's happening in Class F? It seems like Si Xia's naked. Oi! What nonsense, Si Xia just removed his top. He has abs, ow ow ow. I want to take a look. Today's perfect. Not only did I see the ex-hunk, I even got a treat from the current hunk. What are you even excited about? Your ex-hunk came to deliver a coat for another girl and your current hunk stripping for another girl, alright? Damn it. Who was it? Who did Si Xia strip for? Was it Qing Shui? Wrong. It's for the current beauty of our school, Yi Wanwan. Damn. Yi Wanwan again. But it was really unexpected that Yi Wanwan's so beautiful, she's even prettier than Qing Shui. Shin Meng-chi heard the discussion around her and their envious tones. Seeing that Yi Wanwan managed to change their views drastically with just that face of hers, Shin Meng-chi's eyes turned gloomier as a bad premonition grew in her heart. She didn't expect what happened last night. Yi Wanwan actually revealed her appearance. Did she not care about Si Yihan anymore? That dumb girl wouldn't become enlightened all of a sudden and want Si Yihan instead of Gu Yuze, would she? How could that be? Moreover, it's said that Si Xia's family's extremely wealthy as well. Why are there always so many outstanding guys around Yi Wanwan, that moron, while I ended up in this state because of just one guy, Song Zihang. But, TSK, Yi Wanwan, don't rejoice so quickly. Qing Shui's not someone to be trifled with. Just wait and see how you perish. Chapter 205, A Lovely Feast. Class F. Si Xia saw the unhappiness on Yi Wanwan's face and his face turned black immediately. I saw that you were crying so badly, so I risked the loss of my chastity and stripped for you, yet you're not even grateful. Upon hearing the screams around her and the number of teenage girls rushing over to look, Yi Wanwan sobbed in her heart. Was his chastity that important? She was about to lose her life. The way those teenage girls glared at her was as savage as wolves and tigers. Just at this moment, in the midst of the excited screams, a sharp voice resounded, "Shameless vixen. So what if you're pretty? You think you can go around seducing guys just because you're pretty, huh? That's right. Si Xia obviously belongs to our little Shui. Shameless third party." Hearing those words, Si Xia's expression turned icy. Since when did I become her man? The Qing family wanted to develop friendly relations with the Si family but didn't have the right connections, so in the end, they aimed to prey on his good-for-nothing father and try to connect the families through the marriage of their daughter with Si Xia. He only thought that since Qing Shui didn't look too bad, he might as well give her some face. Yet she's already claiming him as her man. Qing Shui's sidekicks were slapped in the face by Si Xia personally and left speechless. When Qing Shui saw how protective Si Xia was towards Yi Wanwan, she trembled in rage and sneered at Yi Wanwan. "Yi Wanwan, I've underestimated you. You're so capable and even got Si Xia to obey you." Yi Wanwan cursed in her heart, "What's wrong with my nephew respecting the elderly and obeying his auntie's words?" Si Xia was already at his limit. "Shut up if you don't want to die." Qing Shui was on the verge of exploding. Her face contorted as she screeched, "Shut up. Why should I shut up? Did I say something wrong? She snatched my man away shamelessly." Yi Wanwan's expression was rigid. "Qing Shui, I think you've got it wrong. I said before that I have a boyfriend, and with my boyfriend's qualities, there's no need for me to snatch anything of yours." Upon hearing that, Si Xia's face became as black as the underside of a pot. even if you wanted to prove your innocence, you didn't have to stab me in the process. Cheng Shui sniggered, ha. Your boyfriend's better than Xia. Yi Wanwan, you talk really big. Do you have any idea who Xia is? Her sidekicks chimed in, what a joke. She's not even afraid of getting her tongue struck for telling a lie like this. Does she think we're fools? A vixen like her is only compatible with a rich old man. Everyone around them was speechless after hearing what Yi Wanwan said. Although what Cheng Shui's sidekick said was awful, it was somewhat true. After all, Yi Wanwan was only an abject princess now, all she had was a pretty face, incomparable to Cheng Shui's family background. Yi Wanwan's tooting her own horn a little too loudly this time. She's been bragging that her boyfriend's 100 times better looking than Xia. That's too ridiculous. Everybody was discussing it when all of a sudden, someone by the window exclaimed, wow. So dashing, what is it, what is it? What is it this time? Quick, look at that man over there. Quick, quick. What they saw was a person walking on the overhead bridge, a man in a plain black suit with a high nose and cherry-stained thin lips. His forehead was as fair as snow, his finely carved silhouette was so perfect that he looked like a god from a Greek myth. There was someone standing next to him, propping up a black umbrella for him respectfully, and the man was walking in the storm like a painting done with splashes of ink. The crowd hadn't regained their composure from Xia's muscles but were stunned by this lovely feast for their eyes. They didn't dare to make a single sound, afraid that this dreamy scene would be destroyed if they did. Chapter 206, Destroy Every Living Creature, Damn it. So dashing. More than just dashing. He's simply out of this world. Most importantly, it's the aura. The aura. Oh my god. I'm about to faint. When Yi Wanwan looked out the window, she froze and the screams by her ears became distant, leaving a dead silence. All she saw was that man. That unemotional and aloof expression on his flawless face. He was approaching slowly in the rain under an umbrella. He looked simply like a great devil who'd been living in seclusion in a cave and had suddenly arrived on Earth, ready to destroy every living creature. Damn it. What did I just see? See Yi Han. Yi Wanwan was first enthralled by the great devil's beauty, totally charmed by it. Her second reaction, I'm so dead. It's my death anniversary a year from today. Shit. Why? Why would Yi Han suddenly appear in school? Oh. She was still in another man's clothes and next to her was a naked man. For this, it wouldn't even be enough if she died 100 times. She was going crazy. I'm so dead thanks to you, bastard. Yi Wanwan said, as she quickly removed the clothing from her body clumsily. However, it was too late. Her seat was too close to the door, and she was certain that Yi Han had already seen her. She was simply making matters worse by trying to hide like she'd done something wrong. Xia retracted his gaze from Yi Han and looked at her as she removed his clothes. His expression turned gloomy. Are you that afraid of him? Yi Wanwan glanced sideways at him. I'm afraid of him. You kidding me? He's my father. Each time I see him, I want to kneel and call him king. Xia. At this moment, everybody in Class A had noticed Yi Han's presence. Their eyes almost popped out. Whoa. Who's this guy? Who is he? Who is he? He's too handsome. What's he doing in our school? Judging by his age, he can't be a student's parent. Did he come here to meet the school leader? I don't know, I've never seen him before. What's the occasion today? All these Casanovas appearing one after another like they're in full force. Please, the ex or current school hunk can't even be compared to this man, alright? Not only is this person handsome, he has a terrifying aura as well. His influence must be huge. Damn, I really want to know. Who exactly is this guy? Seems like he's walking in the direction of Class F, while everyone was having an intense discussion, Shen Mengqi was completely dumbfounded, her eyes filled with disbelief. Si Yihan. He actually came to school. In the past, she still had the opportunity to meet Si Yihan quite often because of her friendship with Yuanwan. But ever since her plan to get Gu Yuze to help Yuanwan escape failed, she hadn't had the chance to see Si Yihan. No matter how hard she tried to drive a wedge between Yuanwan and Si Yihan to ask him out, that dumb girl was never fooled. This was the first time she'd seen him in a very, very long time. The moment she saw him, the hope that was long extinguished in her was suddenly ignited once again. Who's Song Zihang, who's Yimu Fan, who's Si Xia? This man. If she could be with this man. Just as Shen Mengqi felt overwhelmed with emotions, she suddenly realized that Si Yihan was walking towards Class F and her countenance changed instantly. Finally, she could only submit to fate. She trembled as she stood up, left her seat and walked towards the door. Under the gaze of everybody, they all watched as Yuanwan stood up and walked towards the man. Yuanwan wasn't in the mood to care about the looks that other people were giving her. At this moment, every single strand of hair was on its ends and everyone's attention was on the guy. That F.A. When she met the man's condescending and icy cold gaze that lacked any human emotions, Yuanwan almost called him father. Yuanwan bit on her own tongue, quickly calmed herself down and forced a smile. Darling, why were you here? Chapter 208, The Great Devils Delivering Some Warmth. Yuanwan spoke as she continued to struggle on her deathbed and shot Si Xia a look to get him to put his clothes on. In addition, she was also pushing all the love letters, candies and chocolates to Si Xia's side. All these belong to him, they belong to him. I've got nothing to do with them. Forced laugh. Si Xia noticed that she was pushing everything over to his side and his face darkened. He raised his brows and took out one of the love letters, Aya. On the cover were the words, Tio Wanwan the goddess, Saranghio, 1, in big, bold words. Yuanwan, I really want to strangle this bastard to death. There was still a remnant of the cold from outside the classroom on Si Yihan's body. His devilish face was stained with icy frost as well, and what lay before her eyes was like the bitter cold wind that sliced through her thin clothing. Yuanwan felt as if her internal organs were about to freeze. At this moment, a cold breeze blew in. Achoo! The psychological and physical coldness caused her to sneeze thrice in a row. And she felt very clearly that the aura around Si Yihan became even more frightening. I'm dead meat this time. Not only is there Si Xia, there's also 10 miles of suitors queuing for me. That. Darling. The thing is, even when she knew that there was no use in explaining herself, Yuanwan still tried. Just as she was racking her brain for an explanation, Si Yihan suddenly glanced at Su-yi. When Su-yi received the indication from his master, he immediately brought out the bag in his hands and from it, he took out a white roll. That seems to be a coat. In the next second, there was warmth on Yuanwan's cold and trembling shoulders. Si Yihan had placed that coat over her, without any expression on his face at all. Seeing that she was just standing here in a daze, Si Yihan looked at her and then raised his brows. Like taking care of a child, he helped her loop her arms through it and then his slender fingers fastened each button, one by one. This was an extremely soft and fluffy cloak-style jacket. The edges were lined with warm white fur, instantly cutting her off from the cold from the outside world. Yuanwan was wrapped up tightly with only her little palm-sized face peeking out. That face of hers looked even more charming against the white fur, and her dazed eyes looking straight at him were as beautiful as stars after a snowfall, enticing him to reach out to her. He looked at the girl in front of him and his gaze darkened all of a sudden, a steaming undercurrent surging beneath his eyes. Yuanwan never expected that it wasn't death awaiting her, but instead, it was a warm coat. Feeling the heat and softness that was almost like fluffy clouds, the cold buried deep in her bones slowly dissipated from her body as a strange warmth flowed into her heart. This unexpected coat actually makes my nose a little prickly. Si Han actually brought a coat for me. Si Han saw something amiss with Yi Wanwan's expression, and a shroud of darkness appeared on his face that was initially expressionless. What is it? Is it so hard to accept the fact that I brought her a coat? Yi Wanwan regained her senses abruptly and lifted her head and said, shocked, no, nothing. I'm still cold, that's all, my hands are freezing. When Si Han heard that, he gave Sooo a look once again. Sooo immediately understood and took out a pair of gloves. Fully prepared indeed. But Yi Wanwan's face turned dark when she saw that pair of gloves. Damn, I said that on purpose to tease him a little. Shouldn't a normal guy's reaction be to hold my hand and use his body heat to warm me up? What the hell was with the gloves? Chapter 209, Si Han's woman Yi Wanwan accepted the pair of gloves with mixed feelings. Not happy. I thought I could get him to hold my hands and ease the atmosphere a little, then he might not be so mad anymore. But in this current situation, is he angry or not, exactly? Forget about his low EQ, he even has facial paralysis. It's so hard to have a boyfriend like him, I totally can't guess what he's thinking. Just as Yi Wanwan sighed in regret, everyone around her stared at that perfect couple at the door and was speechless from the shock. What am I seeing? Yi Wanwan actually, she really has a boyfriend, and he's so good looking. She wasn't exaggerating when she said that he's much better looking than Si Xia. Just his face is enough, alright. Listening to the discussions around him, Cheng Shui didn't move at all, like her entire body was fixed in place. That face of hers was abnormally pale, as if she had seen something terrifying. Si Han. That legendary master of the Si family who kills without batting an eyelid. Even if she'd only seen him once from afar because of Si Xia, she definitely recognized him. This man, you only have to meet him once and you'll never forget him. But, how could it be? How could Yi Wanwan's boyfriend be Si Han? If this was the case, why would Yi Wanwan let go of Si Han and run over to seduce Si Xia? Could it be that Si Xia was so caring towards Yi Wanwan from the start because of this? Because Yi Wanwan is Si Han's woman. Oh my god, if Si Han finds out about the things I did to Yi Wanwan. With that thought, a tremendous fear emerged on Cheng Shui's face instantly. At the same time, she suddenly recalled the warning that Si Xia gave her, shut up if you don't want to die. While everyone was still dumbfounded, a voice came from behind the man all of a sudden. Mr. Si, all they saw was Shen Mengqi in a pink dress standing there shyly, saying hi to Si Han. When everybody saw that, their hunger for gossip was displayed in their eyes. Shen Mengqi knows this person too. When Si Han recognized that it was Shen Mengqi, his gaze landed on her for a brief moment, but his gaze was empty, as if she didn't exist. Sooo never had a good impression of Shen Mengqi. Seeing that she'd invited herself over, his face turned cold as he took a step towards Si Han, blocking any intention to get closer. When she saw that Si Han didn't even react when he saw her, Shen Mengqi bit her lip, slightly embarrassed, but when she remembered that this man was like that to everyone, she felt a little better. Shen Mengqi wasn't able to get closer to Si Han, so she walked to Yi Wanwan's side warmly and spoke in a very friendly manner. Did you come to give a coat to Yi Wanwan? This coat looks great, the gloves are cute too, there's even a little tiger on them. Shen Mengqi spoke so much, yet Si Han ignored her, and even Yi Wanwan didn't respond to her words. It was like she was performing a monologue. Shen Mengqi's expression grew increasingly awkward and there was a flash of gloominess beneath her eyes. Then, her gaze seemed to move in Si Xia's direction carelessly. It was as if she had a guilty conscience and suddenly said to Si Han anxiously, Mr. Si, you must never misunderstand Wanwan and Si Xia. Si Xia merely saw that Wanwan was cold, so he took off his top and gave it to her. They're just ordinary friends. Wanwan would never mix with those complicated people outside, you must believe her. This comment she just made would make him misunderstand even if he didn't misunderstand at first. Yi Wanwan had a mocking look on her face as she looked at Shen Mengqi quietly. Shen Mengqi finally couldn't tolerate it anymore and is driving a wedge between Si Han and me, right in front of me. Complicated people. TSK, at this point in her past life, Shin Meng-chi still didn't know about Si Xia and Si Han's relationship. Chapter 210, Choke This Bastard to Death. TSK, at this point in her past life, Shin Meng-chi still didn't know about Si Xia and Si Han's relationship. Furthermore, Yu Wanwan had already torn down Shin Meng-chi's mask in front of Si Han, so her words had lost all credibility. It'd be better for Meng-chi if she didn't try to drive a wedge between them. By trying to interfere with their relationship in such an obvious manner, there was no way Si Han would believe her. At the same time, Qing Shui, who was standing off to the side, stared in Shin Meng-chi's direction in astonishment. Initially, she thought that this woman, Shin Meng-chi, really knew Si Han and was very close to him. But after she heard her call Si Xia a complicated person, she was speechless. None of the few brothers in the Si family had an heir yet, and Si Han wasn't even married, so Si Xia was the only young master in the Si family. His status was extremely high. Although many people said that with Si Han's mistrustful and tyrannical character, he wouldn't let any one of them have a descendant, giving them the right of inheritance. But the truth was that Si Han treated his nephew quite well and even gave him quite a bit of respect. There was a rumor that once, a reckless relative thought that by bullying Si Xia, he'd be able to get into Si Han's good books, so he humiliated Si Xia in front of everyone and called his father a useless scoundrel. But after Si Han found out, he got someone to slice that man's tongue off instantly. That bloody and gruesome scene shocked everyone in the Si family. From then on, nobody in the Si family dared to disrespect Si Xia. And now, Shin Meng-chi actually dared to call Si Xia a complicated person. She even said it right in front of Si Han. On the other hand, Shin Meng-chi saw that Si Xia was still half naked. That was blatant proof right there. She was so excited that she lost control of her emotions. She couldn't believe that Si Han was still so calm when this was akin to catching a couple in the act. Even if Yu Wanwan merely breathed a single word to another guy, Si Han would flare up and go into a murderous rage. Wanwan had even accepted the clothes of a man with such a pleasing appearance, and this man still strutted around half-naked next to her. Shin Meng-chi acted like she was very worried for Yu Wanwan and pleaded, Si Xia, you should put your clothes on quickly. You're creating a misunderstanding for Wanwan. The way Si Xia looked at Shin Meng-chi was akin to looking at a fool. Where did this fool emerge from? Yu Wanwan is actually best friends with this fool. TSK, she definitely has a problem with her brain. No wonder she'd fall for a pervert like Si Han. Si Xia sneered and grabbed his clothes. He leaned back and showed off the figure that was lean when clothed and muscular when bare. Those defined and smooth abs glistened. Tisk, I'm not putting them on. I just wanted to strip naked for her, so what? The moment Si Xia said that, a deadly silence fell upon the entire classroom. Yi Wanwan's eyes were gaping wide. If Si Han wasn't there, she would have pounced and choked this bastard to death. Just what kind of hatred and resentment does he have against me? This guy must be her soul reaper after her rebirth. Wow, this is too juicy. Two men fighting over a woman. Not to mention, they're both so handsome. Although Si Xia has a different aura, his fresh and young vibe is irresistible. Yi Wanwan's too lucky with men, huh? Tisk, she's a vixen indeed, totally shameless. Isn't she going a little overboard for seducing guys here and there? Shin Meng-chi didn't expect that Si Xia's behavior would be more surprising than imagined and was satisfied. She continued to meddle with their relationship and said with disbelief, how could you do that? You obviously knew that Yu Wanwan already had a boyfriend and yet you're still doing this. Is this how you were brought up, young Master Si? Chapter 211, Totally a daddy with a capital D for Si Han's sake. Shin Meng-chi's face was filled with indignation at this injustice. She clearly put a lot of effort into her act. Si Xia raised his brows slightly when he heard that. My upbringing? TSK, I was brought up by Si Han. Si Xia was relaxed. With a smug look on his face, he even stole a glance at Si Han purposely before continuing, what about me? If Yu Wanwan asked me to take my pants off, I'd gladly take them off for her. You got a problem? Yu Wanwan. You think I'm that crazy to ask you to take off your pants? Have some integrity, bastard. Everyone was shocked by what they heard and rubbed their hands in anticipation of Si Han's response. He's been made a fool in front of everyone, sounds like they're going to break up. Under countless stares, Si Han dealt with Si Xia's malicious provocation without a change in his expression at all. Si Han waited for him to finish provoking him, then looked at him plainly and asked, "You done?" He looked at Si Xia like he was looking at a problematic kid, causing Si Xia to burst into an outrage, a fiery rage burning in his eyes. Si Han saw that he didn't make any sound in response. His aloof gaze rained down torrents of oppression and his tone was low and threatening. "What? You don't greet me when you see me?" Si Xia bore the weight of that oppression. It was as if his entire body was being pressed on by a huge mountain, his blood was almost freezing. Time passed very slowly. Even in such cold weather, beads of perspiration formed on his forehead. After some time had passed, the teenager finally gritted his teeth and said, enunciating every word clearly, "Ninth uncle. 9th. Ninth uncle." After they heard how Si Xia greeted Yu Wanwan's boyfriend, those waiting for a good show were dumbfounded. Shen Mengqi, who was secretly happy at first, was totally stunned as well. Nevertheless, this wasn't the end yet. Si Han's gaze swept across Yu Wanwan and he continued, "What do you call her?" Si Xia clenched his fists tightly, his words seemed to be squeezed out through the gaps of his teeth. 9th. Oh. Aunt, damn. What? What's going on here? Hearing Si Xia calling her 9th aunt, the already confused crowd nearly went into seizures. What? What did Si Xia just call Yu Wanwan? Aunt? They never thought Si Xia had such a relationship with Yu Wanwan. So the reason why Si Xia was so nice towards Yu Wanwan from the start and was always protecting her was because she's his aunt? His uncle's girlfriend? Totally shocking. Yet the one who was in a greater shock was Yu Wanwan herself. Daddy's amazing, he's totally a daddy with a capital D. He actually managed to get Si Xia to call me aunt with just one look. He even got rid of all the rumors and misunderstandings circulating in school about her in an instant. It was only after Si Han heard the word aunt that he retracted his look of warning and turned to Sooo. Sooo had just gone through this hair-raising experience and his legs almost gave way. Now, he stood there blankly, slowly regaining his senses. He quickly took out a men's coat from the bag in his hand and handed it to Si Xia. He stared at Si Xia's face. It was obvious that he was in a nasty mood, so he said carefully, "Young Master Si Xia, you've just recovered from your illness, quickly put these clothes on. Don't catch a cold." Si Xia's face darkened, but he obligingly put on his own clothing. Then he took the coat from Sooo and put it on just for show. Catch a cold my ass, my whole body's close to combusting. Chapter 212, What if you snatch my boyfriend too? Damn, my goddess is amazing. She's actually Si Xia's aunt. Look at this seniority. Awesome. Now we finally know why Si Xia was so caring towards Yu Wanwan. What did Shen Mengqi say just now? She actually said Si Xia didn't have a good upbringing. PFFF. Then wasn't she talking about Si Xia's uncle too? With that, everyone looked at Shen Mengqi strangely. This Shen Mengqi's a joke. Yu Wanwan's boyfriend hadn't even spoken yet she rushed to explain everything. Those in the know would see that she and Yu Wanwan have a close relationship and Mengqi was worried about her good friend, but those not in the know would think she's trying to paint a bad picture of Yu Wanwan in front of her boyfriend. I guess there's a greater chance of the latter. Shen Mengqi has a troublemaking streak, didn't she steal her best friend's boyfriend? Ah, that's right. She didn't even let Song Ziheng go, much less such an outstanding man. She was probably trying to drive a wedge between Wanwan and Si Han just now. Oh my god, she's just disgusting. She kept saying that it was Song Zihang who forced her and even said he threatened her, saying that if she didn't comply, he'd tell everyone that she was the one who seduced him. Shen Mengqi said he flew into a rage and splashed dirty water on her. I almost believed her and even sympathized with her. But in the end, it turned out she was just torturing Jiang Yanran. After she was done with her, she started on Yuan Wan, tsk, she's truly atrocious. And up till now, she's clung on to Yuan Wan's older brother the whole time. Shen Mengqi had been dumbfounded the moment she heard Si Xia call Si Yihan his ninth uncle. As she listened to all this criticism, her face turned even paler. What's going on? Si Xia and Si Yihan are actually nephew and uncle. I can't believe I actually said that Si Xia had a bad upbringing in front of Si Yihan. Also, does Si Yihan think I'm trying to drive a wedge into his relationship with his nephew? I heard talking badly about family was the most extreme taboo for Si Yihan. When Qing Shui witnessed what happened, she giggled yet wasn't surprised. She knew this would happen. Luckily, there was Shen Mengqi to distract Si Yihan today, otherwise she was afraid that she'd be the one in trouble. However, if Yuan Wan goes back and tells on me. On the other hand, Shen Mengqi was already scared out of her wits. She looked at Si Yihan and stuttered, trying to explain herself, Mr. Si, I didn't know. I didn't know that Si Xia's your nephew. I'm really sorry. I got things mixed up. I was just very worried about Yuan Wan, so this happened. Please don't mind me. Si Yihan didn't say a word. He didn't even take one look at her but looked towards Yuan Wan instead. With Si Yihan's apathetic expression, Shen Mengqi felt like her heart was about to fall through the ice. All she could do was look at Yuan Wan pleadingly. Wan Wan, I really didn't do it on purpose. You know me best, I did it all because I was worried about you. Yuan Wan listened as Shen Mengqi tried in vain to bewitch her. Her gaze was icy. Really? But everyone said you were trying to drive a wedge between me and my boyfriend. How could that be, Wan Wan? Don't you believe me anymore? Shen Mengqi was panicking. This dumb Yuan Wan, why does she believe everything other people say? Su Yi looked indifferently at Shen Mengqi's pretense. This dumb woman, Yuan Wan, will probably fall for Mengqi's tricks again. When Yuan Wan heard Shen Mengqi's desperate explanations, she looked hesitant and replied apologetically, Sorry Mengqi, since you snatched Yan Ran's boyfriend before, it's hard for me to trust you. I don't think we should talk anymore. Otherwise, what if you snatch my boyfriend too? My boyfriend's so handsome, Yuan Wan muttered while clinging to Si Yihan's side nervously and hugging his arm possessively, her face filled with protectiveness. Si Yihan saw Yuan Wan suddenly hugging his arm and his indifferent gaze showed a flash of surprise. As for Su Yi, he was delirious with joy. This woman seems to see reason finally. I've waited 1,000 years. Chapter 213, Did I Just Get Hit On? As Shen Mengqi was exposed by Yuan Wan, guilt flashed over her face but it was very quickly replaced with a hurt and disappointed look. How could that be? Wan Wan, you're my best friend. Why would I snatch your boyfriend? Shen Mengqi's eyes reddened. Her body started trembling visibly as she looked at Si Yihan helplessly, seeking his forgiveness. Mr. Si, I have only high esteem and respect for you. I don't have any other intentions. In the end, Shen Mengqi was only able to take half a step before being blocked by Su Yi's icy gaze. Miss Shen, please have some dignity. PFFF, seeing that Shen Mengqi had been blocked by someone's underling, the onlookers couldn't help but laugh. High esteem, respect. What do those mean when you're saying you have high esteem and respect for another man? You're obviously confessing your feelings for him, but still, you insist that you don't have any other intentions? A leopard can't change its spots. She kept chasing after Jiang Yanran's boyfriend and now she's upped her standards by latching onto this guy. Yuan Wan's boyfriend looks so much more successful than Song Zihang. Yi Mu Fan already delivered a coat to her yet she still wants to shiver in the cold. act pitiful and wail accusingly, she thinks people are blind. I remember that the rumor about Yu Wanwan being fed by old men outside school was also spread by her, right? Shen Mengqi's face changed. I didn't. It's not like that. How could I spread such a rumor? Damn it, Jiang Yanran has been so close to Yu Wanwan lately. Did she say anything to her? No wonder Wanwan's attitude towards me has been so different. Yu Wanwan stood by the side and looked coldly as Shen Mengqi struggled to give a convincing explanation to the crowd. She'd once been mocked and excluded by everyone thanks to Shen Mengqi tarnishing her name. Today, she finally got back at her. Of course, this wasn't enough. Reeling just as the bell rang, Shen Mengqi took the chance to escape from the unforgiving crowd. Wanwan, no matter what misunderstandings you have about me, I really didn't mean it. I'll explain better next time. Shen Mengqi concealed the darkness in her eyes, bit her lips, shot a resentful glance at Si Yihan, then left in a hurry. Yu Wanwan wasn't bothered by Shen Mengqi and got up from her seat to send Si Yihan off. Looking at the man in front of her, Yu Wanwan was silent. Go to class, Si Yihan said, when he noticed she wasn't making a sound. He thought she was just afraid to speak to him, so he didn't say much either. However, just as Si Yihan was about to leave, someone grabbed his wrist. A little hand was held onto his sleeve lightly. Si Yihan paused and looked at his sleeve. Yu Wanwan didn't know why she stopped him. After she caught on, she quickly retracted her arm and fiddled with the white fur on her collar nonchalantly. Si Yihan didn't rush her and stood there, watching her quietly. Yu Wanwan didn't know what to say, so she asked out of the blue, will you ever fall for Shen Mengqi? Si Yihan looked deeply into her eyes and replied without any expression, no, I have high standards. Yu Wanwan was speechless. After a long time, she lifted her head and blinked, then blinked again. Did I just get hit on? Wasn't that just a veiled compliment? He actually managed to say that with a serious face when he has me as his girlfriend. Chapter 214. What a fool! Sooo looked at his master, who had just proclaimed he had high standards, and then glanced at the dazed Yu Wanwan next to him, speechless. At this moment, he somewhat understood how Luing felt when his master said his standard of a partner had to be unparalleled. Any more questions? Si Yihan asked. Yu Wanwan shook her head, no, just, thanks for bringing the coat to me, and the gloves, the little tiger on top is very cute, did you pick it out yourself? Si Yihan, Sooo prepared it. Sooo, master, please check your conscience and say that again. Sure, I prepared it, but I prepared 100 pairs for you, yet you were only pleased with this particular one, alright? Oh, Yu Wanwan nodded and then asked, is Great White still at home? Yes, Si Yihan replied. When Sooo heard his reply, he froze. How is it at home? I hadn't even found it yet. Yu Wanwan was relieved, lessons are about to start, I'll head back now. Be careful on the roads. After Yu Wanwan left, Sooo turned to Si Yihan anxiously, Master, Si Lute, you still have 1 day left, Si Yihan interrupted him. Sooo was stunned. Tears started to pour down in his heart like the rain. I'll definitely find Si Lute by tomorrow before Miss Yu returns. No wonder Master wants me to bring Si Lute back, he's trying to please his beauty. Although it's hard to admit, Master's becoming more and more like a fool, hoo. After school the next day, Yu Wanwan packed her luggage and bid farewell to Jiang Yanran. Will you be fine living on your own? Why don't you apply for a dormitory change? Yu Wanwan suggested. Jiang Yanran shook her head, it's okay, the college entrance exams are coming up. I'll be able to focus on my studying in peace. Although Qinghe had the highest quality of teaching amongst all the private schools, its atmosphere couldn't compare to the atmosphere at a normal high school. Since many students chose to study abroad after college entrance exams, they didn't care about their results at all the girls just talked about clothing brands and makeup during this period of time. However, Jiang Yanran was the only daughter of her parents. Since her parents couldn't bear for her to be so far away, she was preparing to apply to a local college. Initially, she hadn't considered which school to apply to, but after spending so much time with Yi Wanwan, she decided to apply for the performance program at Imperial City Media College. Strangely, she was quite eager to work with Wanwan in the future. Since she'd been influenced by her parents from a young age, she wasn't worried about the professional course in performance, but she had to work much harder for the cultural course. She heard that Yi Wanwan was considering majoring in media relations at Imperial Media. Imperial Films and Imperial Media were the top film and media universities in China. They were the goals of every film and media student and were also the ivory tower and source of prestige for various fields and industries. Everyone knew of the terrifying cutoffs for the non-arts majors at Imperial Media and that they were comparable to the cutoffs of Imperial Films. This applied to the media relations major Yi Wanwan was considering as well. Even though Yi Wanwan's grades weren't bad now, her math grades were pulling her overall average down by too much. If she wanted to enter Imperial Media, that was a troubling indeed. Wanwan, since you're going home, why don't you take the chance to apply for math tutoring classes in the evening? Your math marks are a serious problem. Jiang Yanran asked worriedly. Yi Wanwan waved her hand and replied, don't worry, don't worry. I've applied for them already. The math teacher coaching me is fantastic. Chapter 215, Can't You Please a Woman Yourself? Downstairs, Sooo was just helping Yi Wanwan with her luggage when he couldn't help but overhear the conversation between Yi Wanwan and her friend. Yi Wanwan applied for tutoring classes. How come I don't know about it? After all, he was in charge of all matters regarding Yi Wanwan. Could it be that master helped her apply? Jiang Yanran was relieved when she heard that, a math teacher who you say is fantastic. He must be really good. Yup, don't worry. Focus on working hard yourself, too. Well, I'm taking off then. Don't forget to miss me. Yi Wanwan walked over to give her a hug. Jiang Yanran blushed and pouted at her helplessly, hurry and get going. I'll see you on Monday, okay? Ever since Yi Wanwan stopped putting on her hideous makeup, her face was simply so attractive that even a woman like her couldn't resist, much less a man. Thankfully, Yi Wanwan's boyfriend came to school yesterday and thwarted the intentions of any hopeful guys. Jiang Yanran looked towards Sooo and lamented softly, I really didn't expect that your boyfriend is Si Xia's uncle. Everyone said he's a great influence. Some people were saying that he might even be that mysterious master of the Si family, Si Han. After all, his aura's so strong, you can tell right away he isn't just any ordinary person. Cough. Yi Wanwan choked when she heard that and quickly denied it. How can that be? That's indulging in a fantasy. If Si Han is my boyfriend, then the president of Country M is my dad. Sooo at the side, Jiang Yanran chuckled, I also thought it was impossible. After all, Si Han's famous, how could us regular people meet him so easily? Everybody was just making wild guesses. Anyway, it's said that Si Han looks terrifying and scary, so how could that dashing and gentle man be him? Also, all the sons in the Si family were in the top professional schools of the country or international training camps. They received professional grooming and education as kids, so what reason could they have for appearing at a private school in the country? Even if that man was somewhat related to the Si family, he was probably a really distant relative. However, even so, as long as he's related to the Si family, he's already admired by ordinary people. Gentle. Yi Wanwan forced a laugh. Yes. My boyfriend's very gentle. After she bid farewell to Jiang Yanran, Yi Wanwan left with Sooo. Before leaving, Sooo instinctively cast an investigative look over at Jiang Yanran. So this girl is Yi Wanwan's new roommate? It was so hard to get rid of the last one, please be one of the good ones. But from what he'd found out so far, judging by her family background and his first impression, this girl seemed fine. Hopefully, she wouldn't end up to be another Shenmeng Qi. Shortly, the car arrived at Jean Garden. Yuanwan glued her face to the car window and looked outside eagerly. Finally, she saw a white figure crouching outside, without a single hair out of place. What surprised her the most was that on the white tiger's neck, there was a pink ribbon around it. It was so dashing and cute, transforming it into a one. Wow! Great white, great white, great white! Yuanwan jumped out of the car and pounced onto the white tiger excitedly. As expected, it gave a great roar directly into her face. But Yuanwan didn't seem to mind and walked around it, persevering and showing it a lot of love. It was obvious that the white tiger was quite annoyed. By the looks of it, it looked like it wanted to whip her to death with its tail, but it didn't have a choice. It was just its luck to have a heartless owner. He's simply too heartless. Can't he please a woman himself? He has to resort to abusing animals. Chapter 216, Dumb Humans. Dumb humans. They actually made me sit here like a dumb stone lion to wait for this dumb woman, and even made me wear this dumb thing around my neck. Yuanwan loved Great White's arrogant, dumb humans, expression. She picked up her phone and relentlessly took many pictures of it, including many selfies with it. Sooo watched as Yuanwan fearlessly circled around Si Lu-tae, and the cold sweat on his forehead nearly dripped. Did Yuanwan take the wrong medicine today? She used to be so scared of Si Lu-tae before. Thankfully, Yuanwan knew her limits and circled around it without touching it. If she hurt this little devil, there'd be chaos on Earth. To be honest, Yuanwan really wanted to touch it, but she knew that Si Lu-tae hated having people touch it, so she didn't force it. She could only look at its furry head and meaty body. It'd be great if one day, Great White lets me to touch it. Housekeeper Sue. How are my vegetables? Don't worry, Mississippi. They've been properly cared for by a professional. Quick, let me take a look. Yuanwan said excitedly. She turned to the white tiger and said, Great White, do you want to follow me to see the cabbage I've grown? The corners of Soo's mouth twitched. I think Great White. Si Lu-tae isn't too interested. It isn't a vegetarian. Sigh, I was influenced by Yuanwan and actually called Si Lu-tae, Great White. Yuanwan was disappointed. All right then. Great White, I'm going to the vegetable garden to take a quick look. I'll play with you later. Yuanwan left for the yard in a jiffy after she put her school bag down. Certainly, the fruits and vegetables that were planted before she left were very well taken care of. The fruit trees had started to sprout, the sunflowers were half-grown, some of the fast-growing vegetables were almost ripe and ready to be picked, the fish in the pond were all lively and plump and not far off, there were even a few yellow chicks looking for food. The yard that had been as cold and terrible as a golden silk cage now had the warmth and gentle breath of the sunset everywhere. Yuanwan inspected the fruits of her labor happily while a certain housekeeper followed behind her, bleeding internally. The Jean garden created by a world-renowned architect turned into a farm, just like that. However, ever since Jean garden had been messily transformed by Yuanwan, the whole place had a more relaxing vibe to it. At least the servants didn't have to fear for their lives as they took care of those expensive flowers and trees or worry that Yuanwan would destroy them. Seeing that Yuanwan had returned, they even fought for credit. One of them said he took care of the fresh cabbage while another said he took care of the carrots, making Soo shift between laughter and tears. Yuanwan made an entire round from the front to the back of the yard and plucked a few fresh vegetables ready to be eaten, then she finally headed back, satisfied. As she reached the living room, she saw Si-han walking down the stairs. He glanced at the basket in her hand. You're back. Yuanwan immediately straightened up. Yup, I saw Great White. And even went to look at the vegetables I grew. Look, they've grown well. Si-han replied plainly, Yuanwan blinked. Why do I have a feeling Si-han's in a bad mood, huh? Soo by the side, the first thing you did when you returned was look for Great White and the second thing you did was check on the cabbage. How could master be in a good mood? But he would never admit that his master, who struck fear into people, was jealous of a tiger and some cabbage. Chapter 217, Compete for Attention. Although Yuanwan didn't know exactly why Siyihan was in a bad mood, her sweet-talking skills were impeccable, so she hopped over and asked, "Did you pick Great White's ribbon?" "It looks great." Sooo. "Although the ribbon on Great White was hand-picked by the master, I was the one who tied it. It was me. I was the one who risked my life. Why didn't you praise me? Also, this cabbage is very fresh. I'll bring it to the kitchen and prepare it for you to supplement your health," Yuanwan said sweetly. With Yuanwan pacifying him so gently, Siyihan's anger was decreased by half. Thereafter, Yuanwan brought the vegetables to the kitchen. After dinner, Yuanwan sneakily went to the fridge to take a piece of beef and then headed to the yard to look for Great White. She saw Great White swaying its tail and patrolling the yard. When it passed the little chicks, it opened its mouth and swallowed one, unrestrained. Yuanwan freaked out and sped over quickly. "Great White. Spit it out, spit it out. This chicken will lay eggs for us, you can't eat it." The white tiger looked at her, stunned, then quickly opened its mouth and a little yellow chick covered in saliva rolled out and quickly ran away. "Why would I eat a live animal as small as this? I was just playing." When Yuanwan saw that the chick was alive, she heaved a sigh of relief. Then she pulled out the piece of beef and dangled it temptingly. Great White, you can have this instead." This was an extremely fresh piece of raw beef. There was still the sweet taste of blood on top. The white tiger, who was usually indifferent towards her, began twitching its nose. Yuanwan's eyes glistened as she started tempting it excitedly. "This isn't any cheap piece of beef jerky. It's top-notch Black Angus beef. Very delicious. And expensive. I had a hard time stealing it. If I took Siyihan's beef to feed his white tiger, it's not really considered stealing, is it? Anyway, it all belongs to Siyihan." Yuanwan knew that Si Lu Te never ate anything fed by strangers, but she'd been living in Jin Garden for almost 2 years. She wasn't really a stranger. Come have a bite, it's really good. I wouldn't lie to you." Yuanwan persevered and continued coaxing it. But the big white tiger was very stubborn. It simply twitched its nose and continued ignoring her. So much self-restraint. Yuanwan faked a sob. "Why were you more difficult to please than your owner?" "Actually, its owner is still quite easy to please." Yuanwan was left with no choice. All she could do was place that piece of beef on the grass next to the tiger and then walk far away. She hid in the dark silently for almost 10 minutes. Great White lay there, swinging its tail and playing with the chicks. Then, it finally used its claws to poke the meat and inserted it into its mouth, swallowing it whole with one bite. Great White swallowed it. Wow! Ate it whole. Yuanwan was so happy that she nearly gave a military salute right then and there. It was the first time she was happier to look at someone eat over eating herself. Great White looks so adorable even when it's eating at this moment. Yuanwan had no idea that her actions in the yard, including the love-struck way she looked at Great White, were being watched by a certain Great Devil and his housekeeper. Sooo carefully took a glimpse at Great White's owner and his legs trembled. "Why do I get the feeling that the dishes prepared tomorrow will be stewed white tiger with cabbage?" He insisted on having me bring Si Lu Te back. Now he has to compete for attention. Chapter 218, Sleep with Me every night. Yuanwan excitedly circled non-stop around Great White. Great White didn't seem to care for her, yet Yuanwan still spent half a day muttering to the tiger, told stories, and even wove a garland for it. Occasionally, Great White's annoyed roar came from the yard, along with Yuanwan's nagging. When Yuanwan regained track of the time, the sky was already dark. It was only then that she left Great White and the cabbage patch reluctantly and solemnly trudged into the house filled with Math and Siyihan. After she waved Great White goodbye, Yuanwan carried her school bag upstairs sadly. Upon seeing Sooo coming out from the study, Yuanwan quickly asked, "Is Siyihan busy now?" Sooo was on the verge of crying when he saw Yuanwan. "This auntie is finally done playing. After she went inside, she saw the man sitting on the chair in the balcony with a foreign language book in his hands. His face was obscured by shadows so she couldn't see his expression clearly. Need something? When he saw her approaching, he looked up slowly, with eyes as cold as the moon overhead. She wasn't sure whether it was her misperception, but she felt as if Sooo had dug a grave for her. Who said Si-Han seems to be in a good mood now? Yuan thought about it for a long time but still couldn't figure out why Si-Han was in a bad mood, so she left it alone. Well, it's like this. In less than a month's time, it'll be the college entrance examinations, but my math is really bad, I need some help. Are you busy these days? Could you teach me? Just give me 2 hours, no, 1 hour every night. Yuan didn't dare ask for too much, he's a busy man after all. But as the saying goes, listening to a single comment from a wise gentleman is worth more than reading 10 years' worth of books. Even if she only got an hour, it'd be good enough for her. Maybe it was due to Si-Han's easy-to-understand explanations or her fear of making mistakes in front of him, but she felt like her senses were always heightened and focused when studying with him, allowing her to become highly efficient. Yuan waited nervously for his reply. After some consideration, he placed the book down and said in his usual tone, I can give you 2 hours. 2 hours. Yuan's eyes lit up, really? But, I have a condition. Si-Han's eyes turned slightly darker. Yuan's nerves were at her breaking point. Condition, what condition? Si-Han, you'll have to pay a certain fee proportional to my services. Yuan, and this fee refers to? Si-Han, give me 8 hours. Yuan was taken aback. Give him 8 hours for what? In the next second, she recalled what happened in her dorm before. At that time, Si-Han's condition was 6 hours, that's right, he wanted me to sleep with him for 6 hours. So, the 8 hours that Si-Han meant was probably, you mean you want me to sleep with you for an entire night? Greatly astonished, Yuan had her eyes wide open. Upon hearing Yuan's reply, Si-Han glanced at her and said, you only need my tuition for 1 night? Yuan shook her head reflexively. 1 night definitely won't be enough, it has to go on until the end of the college entrance exams. Until exams end, I'll probably need your help every night if you're free. Si-Han lifted the teacup in his hand and took a sip. Well, sleep with me every night then. Yuan. Chapter 219. This exorbitant tuition fee isn't bad. Yuan's brain crashed instantly. How can he put on that rigid expression and say things like, sleep with me every night? Those who don't know might misunderstand and think we're doing something else, but we're just discussing tuition fees for math. After Yuan finally regained her senses, she immediately counted with her fingers. She'd received 2 hours of tutoring, but in return, she had to give up 8 hours for him. Isn't this tuition fee a little too steep? This is daylight robbery. Yes, my math is bad, but it's not that bad, okay? Yuan, who felt her intelligence was being insulted, said angrily, isn't there something wrong with this arrangement? Why should I give you 8 hours of my time when you're only giving me 2? Si-Han looked as if he didn't care either way about the deal. You can reject this offer if you want. Yuan couldn't find the words to rebut him. At this moment, Si-Han was like a glittering, gold study god. Whether she was admitted to imperial media or not depended on him. How could she bear to let this deal go? Yuan hesitated for a long time and was forced to clarify. Then, we're just sleeping, right? Literally sleeping. She remembered from those times at school and the old house when they just purely slept with a blanket over them. If this was the case, she wouldn't lose out on anything. She needed her sleep anyway, the only difference was that there'd be someone next to her, that's all. Just as Yuan had that thought and was sighing in relief, Si-Han put his cup of tea down as he looked at her slowly with eyes stained with the darkness of the sky. He replied plainly, I can't make any promises. After all, I'm a normal man. The moment Si-Han said that, Yuan was stunned. You don't have to be so modest. In my heart, you're not a human at all right? Take some time to think about it. Si-han got up. Yuan-wan, who was still in a daze, noticed Si-han standing up and immediately, she took a big stride towards him, looked up at him with sparkling eyes and replied resolutely, "Deal." Si-han looked slightly surprised, "Sure." Yuan-wan nodded, "Sure, it's not like we've never slept together before." Si-han, quick, 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 let's start today." Yuan-wan rushed him. "Anyway, we've already slept together before, and I'm also no longer an 18-year-old little girl. Most importantly, I'm not planning to remain chaste for Gu Yuze anymore, so what's the big deal if I sleep with him a couple more times? Right now, there's nothing more important than getting into imperial media. If I keep being constrained by all these thoughts, how will the end result be any different from the past? I can't waste any more time." Thus, Yuan-wan courteously helped Si-han pack his desk, rearrange all the textbooks and stationery neatly and even made tea for him. Si-han stood at the side. His deep eyes had a touch of imperceptible probing as he watched her quietly. After she was done, Yuan-wan sat upright and proper just like a student. "Teacher, we can begin." Si-han sat down on the seat next to her but didn't flip open the book. Instead, he supported his forehead with his hand and said, "First, I'll teach you the point I didn't get around to finishing before." Yuan-wan blinked in shock. It's been so many days but he's able to remember the point he hasn't finished. Amazing. So, this exorbitant tuition fee isn't too bad, right? Chapter 220, sounds like he just got dumped. Having successfully endured 2 hours of tutoring, Yuan-wan returned to her room, content to continue doing more practice questions by herself. Time flew as Yuan-wan immersed herself in her newly acquired knowledge. In the blink of an eye, she had worked well into the night. Time to pay my tuition fee. Although she was full of conviction when she said, "Deal," now that it was time to pay her dues, she started feeling very nervous. Especially since Si-han said he's a normal man. After showering and much dilly-dallying, Si-han still hadn't come to fetch her. Yuan-wan got anxious waiting for him, but she didn't want to go to him directly, so she gave him a call. At the same time in the study, Sooo was doing his routine report. After some time, Mo Xian also entered. "Ninth Master, you called for me? Why did he call me over so early? It's not his bedtime yet." Si-han looked up and said to Mo Xian, "Starting from today, you don't have to see me at night for the time being." When Mo Xian heard that, he was stunned. I don't have to come anymore." "But Ninth Master, your illness," Sooo, who was holding a stack of documents, was also filled with surprise. "Master's recent condition hasn't been the best. Why'd he ask Mo Xian to stop coming all of a sudden? Did Master find a more suitable doctor?" Sooo asked. Mo Xian furrowed his brows. He didn't want to brag, but in the field of hypnotism, he was the best and nobody could compete, so it was impossible for the master to find someone better. At this moment, Si-han's phone rang. Both of them saw the caller ID indicating Yuan-wan's name. Why did Yuan-wan phone him when she's in the house? While they both muddled over this, they overheard Yuan-wan's voice from the receiver. "Hello. Si-han, I wanted to check, what time do you sleep? Should I go over to your room or are you coming over to mine?" As the study was very quiet, Yuan-wan's words were quite clear and the two of them were stunned by her words. "I'll head over once I've settled some things." Si-han put down the phone, turned to Mo Xian and continued, "I'll still give you your salary and we'll get Sooo to call you when I need you to come back." After this, he made the two of them leave the room. Mo Xian was still in a confused daze. "What's going on?" Sooo patted his shoulders sympathetically. "You still don't get it? Miss Yu will be attending day school now, so she won't be staying in the dorm anymore, meaning that the master has found someone to sleep with him. You don't have to come for the time being." Mo Xian's face darkened. "Why do you sound so weird? He made it sound like I just got dumped." Mo Xian muttered to himself, "I'm really surprised. I didn't expect Yuan-wan to be so well-behaved and straighten out her thinking so suddenly. This definitely isn't how she usually behaves." I thought after Ninth Master lost control and put his hands on her that she'd cause chaos on Earth, but in the end, she was unbelievably calm. I'm just afraid there's trouble brewing ahead. Sooo naturally knew what he was thinking. It doesn't matter whether she really sorted out her thinking or if she's still thinking of escaping, it makes no difference. Ninth Master would never let her go. Do you think she could hurt Ninth Master by herself? That's obviously impossible. Mo Xian sighed. It's good to not have to come here for the time being. I can finally take a breather. With me not around, you have to pay more attention to Ninth Master's condition and give me updates. Who knows, maybe that woman really can untie the knot in Ninth Master's heart. Got it, Sooo replied. Chapter 221, You Doubt My Abilities? In the room, Yu Wanwan was speechless when she heard Si Han say, I'll head over once I've settled some things. Why does it sound like I'm a wife waiting for her husband to finish his work? I'm obviously just a high school girl who can't afford to pay tuition fees. After reviewing math for an entire night, she had exhausted all of her energy. Once her head touched the pillow, she immediately started dozing off. While she was still drowsy, she heard a pair of familiar footsteps approaching and a chilly breath permeating through her body. Yu Wanwan furrowed her brows and began to prattle on about something drowsily. Si Han stared at her lips. His calloused fingers brushed over them lightly, but just as he got closer to her, he could hear her repeating, x minus x in two series, the formula of a general term, sum to n terms, two of them has a limit, for arithmetic operations change sequentially. After mumbling on for what felt like half a day, she suddenly reached towards the heat source, into his embrace and called out, Daddy, Si Han. She then went silent like she was sound asleep. A long while later, her shoulders started trembling slightly as she mumbled in anxiety and panic, Wanwan has been good. Wanwan has been studying, don't be angry at me, don't forsake me, alright. Si Han stared at her little face with a mixed expression. After some time, he reached out and wiped away the tears forming in her eyes. The alarm clock rang right at 6 a.m. the next morning. Yu Wanwan instinctively buried her head into the duvet to hide from the sound of the alarm. After a long time, she came out from the covers reluctantly, turned the alarm off and made her way up like a wandering spirit. Just as she'd risen up halfway, a large force on her waist suddenly pulled her back down. She found herself lying in bed once again as she came face to face with Si Han's blindingly dashing face. The curtains in the house were drawn with only a shred of faint light shining in. On the soft, comfortable and warm bed, there laid a devilishly handsome man next to her. Any normal human being would probably want to sleep for an eternity. Yu Wanwan couldn't imagine that after worrying for so long, she'd be too exhausted and sleep all the way until dawn. She didn't even realize when Si Han came over. Yu Wanwan's waist was embraced by a large arm, her body was akin to a pillow being hugged. This intimate position made her heart pound. Hey, I need to get up to study. The man's eyes didn't open. He didn't seem to have the intention of letting her get up as he said in a low voice, there's still 2 more hours. Yu Wanwan was speechless. Last night, she slept at 12 and it's now 6 in the morning. There were still 2 hours to a full 8 hours of sleep. He actually counted the hours. Must he be so calculative? Yu Wanwan was accustomed to waking up early. Although she was still really tired, to ask her to lay in bed and sleep peacefully for a full 8 hours felt like a sin to her. Thus, she had to negotiate with him. Teacher C, let's negotiate, can I have a discount? Would 6 hours be alright? Even though I'm a senior in high school now, my math is still so horrendous, so I really need to use all the time I have to catch up. What if I don't do well? His eyes opened slowly, dark as a piece of glass immersed in a cold lake. You're doubting my abilities. Yu Wanwan was speechless. Then what if I don't do well? Can I get a full refund? Chapter 222, Failed Attempt. Actually, she knew that with Si Han's tutoring and her exceptional memory, 1 month would be sufficient. But keeping herself busy was the only way she could be calm and at ease. She thought about her mother, thought about her father, thought about her brother, her home. All these thoughts almost drove her nuts. She knew that Seihan didn't fully trust her and was acutely aware that she couldn't do anything to provoke him. It took me so long to appease Seihan, it's not the right time to act yet. Furthermore, she had a bad record. In order to escape in the past, she often lied that she was going to visit her parents. If she told Seihan she wanted to visit her parents at this point, it'd basically be like telling him that she was trying to escape again. But ever since she saw her older brother at school, these feelings were much harder to suppress. Yuanwan laid in bed, her sleepiness completely gone as she stared at the man next to her, counting his eyelashes while his eyes were shut. Just how can I make Seihan agree to let me go home? After exactly 2 hours, Seihan woke up on the dot. Initially, she speculated whether Seihan had slept at all throughout the night, but just by seeing the glow on his face like he'd absorbed all the light from the sun and the moon, she knew that he had a good sleep. Unlike Yuanwan, who was listless, looking as if a demon sucked her soul out. During breakfast, Yuanwan couldn't hold it in any longer. Why don't I give it a go? I've been so good lately. Yuanwan steadied herself before carefully asking, Hey, Seihan, today's Saturday, can I go back home to visit my parents? Sooo, who was standing by the side, heard this question and gasped instantly. Just last night, I said to Mo Xian that Yuanwan's been quite well behaved lately. This can't be another attempt to escape, right? As expected, the moment Seihan heard she wanted to return home, a layer of frost developed on his face. He placed his cutlery down and looked at her with ice-cold eyes that carried an extreme sense of oppression. His tone was glacial as he replied, The Yi family has nothing to do with you at all. When she heard that, Yuanwan's heart dropped. I know I've already cut ties with my family. Yuanwan's eyes darkened slightly as she mumbled in a low voice, I shouldn't have fought with them over Guyuze before. I didn't know better then and hurt them. I really want to see them right now. The air around Seihan became even chillier as he spoke, exaggerating every single word, I don't want to repeat myself. Although she'd expected this, Yuanwan couldn't help but feel awful inside. Seihan didn't allow her to go not only because he was afraid she'd run away. Maybe it was her perception, but in both her past and current life, Seihan seemed to want to isolate her from her past on purpose. Maybe I'm still haunted by his controlling manner. She wasn't allowed to be close to anybody, not even her family. To him, she belonged to him and only to him. From the moment she started being by his side, her world only revolved around him alone. Knowing that Seihan was already mad, all Yuanwan could do was give up for now. Following this, the atmosphere was very cold. Nobody spoke at the dining table and Sooo didn't even dare to make a sound. There seemed to be something up in the company, as Seihan left with Sooo immediately after eating. Without Seihan around, Yuanwan felt quite free. But with her mood down, she wasn't able to cheer up even after seeing Great White playing with the chicks in the yard. Chapter 223, Wealthy families are as complicated as the seas. Yuanwan laid on the circular table in the yard to do some practice questions. Distracted, she didn't even notice when it started pouring and still held onto her pen in a daze. It was only when Great White, who was dozing under the roof, suddenly roared loudly that she woke up abruptly. She quickly packed up to return to the house to seek shelter from the rain. After she went back into the house, Yuanwan did the same thing as the day before. She stole a slice of beef from the fridge and placed it next to the white tiger before retreating somewhere far away. The rain got heavier and heavier and it started to thunder. Yuanwan held a practice book in her hands and sat cross-legged on the floor, not flipping through the pages. Her mind was in mess and she couldn't focus at all. She thought about how her parents still had to depend on her uncle and live under his roof. She also thought about Guyuze and Yi. Nobody knew this, but Yi isn't her cousin. She's her sister from another mother. There's a saying that goes, wealthy families are as complicated as the seas, and the Yi family wasn't any different. On the surface, they're the founders of the entertainment industry, have connections everywhere and are extremely powerful, but the truth was that inside, they're disgusting to the point of making one puke. Yi Yi's mother, Liang Mei Xian, and her mother, Liang Wanjun, were sisters with the same father but different mothers. Liang Mei Xian was the Liang family's illegitimate daughter and only entered the Liang family when she turned 18. Wanwan's mother was kind and pure. Seeing that Liang Mei Xian was weak and pitiful, she didn't treat Mei Xian unfairly at all, although they weren't close. Liang Mei Xian was already in university at that time and was rejected by the roommates in her dorm. She was often bullied and always returned home with bruises. Grandpa Liang Shijun suggested letting Liang Mei Xian live with Wanwan's mother since the Yi family lived very close to Liang Mei Xian's school. There were so many rooms in the house that it didn't make much difference if one person moved in. Her innocent mother didn't mind at the time and agreed to let Liang Mei Xian move into the house. This became the start of her mother's nightmares. Her mother was too boring and wasn't good at pleasing the in-laws. Also, she had troubles with conceiving a child. After being married for 3 years, she still wasn't pregnant so naturally, her in-laws had many complaints about her. On the other hand, Liang Mei Xian was bubbly, cute and good at sweet-talking. She stole the hearts of everyone not long after she arrived. Another year passed and her mother still wasn't pregnant, but Liang Mei Xian was. She was pregnant with the blood and flesh of Wanwan's father, Yi Shaoting. Liang Mei Xian was jealous that Wanwan's mother had everything and was even more jealous that she was so lucky to marry into a rich family. Mei Xian started scheming the day she stepped into the house until she finally achieved her goal of climbing into Wanwan's father's bed. Wanwan's father was faithful to her mother. After realizing that he touched Liang Mei Xian when he was drunk, he didn't hide it from her mother. He immediately told her about the incident and begged her for forgiveness. Her mother was furious at first and chased Liang Mei Xian out. Wanwan's mother turned a cold shoulder to her father for half a year. When their relationship finally improved slightly, Liang Mei Xian was invited back once again by her mother's in-laws, and by then, Liang Mei Xian's tummy was so huge, she was almost ready for labor. An infertile daughter-in-law versus a woman pregnant with the blood and flesh of the Yi family, it was obvious which one the elders would favor. Then, the elders begged to allow Liang Mei Xian to give birth to the child and wanted her father to get a divorce and marry Liang Mei Xian. Her father objected vehemently and caused a big ruckus at home. The elders swore to their deaths to keep the blood and flesh of the Yi family, but her father didn't want to betray her mother. Plus, Liang Mei Xian's tummy was already so big that the baby could no longer be aborted, and thus, a stalemate was reached. In the end, her second uncle came to the rescue and said he'd always loved Liang Mei Xian deeply and was willing to marry her. He would also treat the child in her tummy as his own. Wanwan's father naturally objected, this was too ridiculous. How could he allow his own younger brother to marry a woman who was pregnant with his child? Chapter 224, The Evidence That Destroyed Their Family. But Yi Shaoan was resolute at that time. Even Liang Mei Xian agreed to marry him for the sake of the child. The elders forced her father to make a decision to either marry Liang Mei Xian or let Yi Shaoan marry her. Under much torment, her father still rejected the idea of marrying Liang Mei Xian. The child was in Liang Mei Xian's tummy, he couldn't force her to abort it, and it wasn't up to him who Liang Mei Xian chose to marry. Just like that, Wanwan's half-sister, Yi Yi, also became her cousin. After Yi Yi was born, even though she was a girl, the elders worried that their granddaughter would be treated unfairly, so they were especially nice towards Liang Mei Xian and Yi Yi. As for her mother, a chicken who couldn't lay eggs, they began to increasingly show their dislike of her. Her mother's days in the Yi family became harder and harder, facing Liang Mei Xian and Yi Yi at home daily nearly drove her to the wall. She suggested getting a divorce to her father many times, but her father was in so much pain that he didn't want to live. Fortunately, not long after, her mother became pregnant, and with a boy even. 3 years after that, her mother had Yi Wanwan too. The prejudice her grandparents had against her mother then disappeared. Her second uncle, Yi Shaoan, was never well liked by her grandfather. The company was basically managed by her father, and her uncle always banked on his taking care of her father's illegitimate daughter all these years to ask for one condition after another. He caused trouble and made a mess in the company while her father had to deal with the aftermath. Until Yi Shaoan went too far and finally violated the Yi family's taboo. He laundered money for an overseas power, lost a big sum of money in Las Vegas, and even embezzled a large sum of public funds. After her father found out about this incident, he flew into a rage and was determined to stop overindulging him. But just as her father was about to present the evidence to her grandfather, Yi Shaoan threatened him with the video of Wanwan's drug abuse. Since his daughter, Yi, could no longer be used to influence him, fine. Yi Shaoan still had another, even more precious daughter, Yi Wanwan. Sure enough, her father folded right after watching the video. Her father had to take the blame for everything Yi Shaoan had done. Her grandfather threw her father out of the company in a furious rage. In her previous life, she was lured to a bar by Yi and was tricked by a group of people to try drugs. At that time, the house was filled with boys and girls using drugs. The scene looked very corrupt on purpose. The entire thing was secretly taped by Yi. That tape then became the evidence that destroyed their family. If Yi hadn't been worried that provoking her father too much would cause the plan to backfire, she would have directly sent people to ruin Yi Wanwan's reputation as well. After Yi Wanwan awoke from her drunken stupor, she had no idea what happened and was still upset that Gu Yuze stood her up. After that, she was dragged home by her enraged father, who secretly found someone to perform a blood test. The results of the test came out. Indeed, she had used drugs, and it was one of the drugs that would cause one to be addicted for a lifetime with just one usage. Following that, she was sent to rehab at a secure location by her father. He left a sum of money for her and arranged everything. She didn't know that in order to protect her, her father had been besieged on all sides. She just complained that her father didn't trust her and sent her to such a scary place by herself. After that, the doctor her father had hired waited an entire month to keep tabs on her. Her drug addiction didn't act up. Shortly after, 3 months went by. The doctor confirmed she didn't have an addiction to drugs. Amazed. He researched for half a month and couldn't find out why. Thus, he could only conclude that the drug she'd ingested was mixed with something else, and there was some sort of mutation that prevented her from becoming addicted. Chapter 225. Do you still want your wife or not? Yi Wanwan didn't really believe she'd used drugs, so she didn't dwell too much on the test results. All that mattered was that she was finally free. After she left, the first thing she wanted to do was see Gu Yuze, but what awaited her was the chaotic world outside. Her father was driven out of the company and he lost the family house and car. In just a single night, Yi Wanwan fell from grace, going from the daughter of a rich family to a shameful, balding phoenix, who was ridiculed by everyone. Her fiancé, whom she loved deeply, even became Yi's boyfriend. In her past life, after she found out these circumstances, she attempted to expose Yi's true colors, but unfortunately, Yi was well prepared and she ended up empty-handed. However, she did stumble onto a shocking secret. With so many memories wreaking havoc in her thoughts, Yi Wanwan felt a sharp pain in her head and leaned against the edge of the sofa, slowly spiraling into a dark and deep nightmare. Due to the sudden drop in temperature from the storm, her body trembled and her chest felt so heavy, as if it were filled with lead. It was becoming harder to breathe. Roar, a ferocious, terrifying and low roar reached Yi Wanwan's ears. Her tightly shut eyes quivered and her mind was bogged down, unable to free itself from the fear. All of a sudden, the white tiger, who was hiding at first, started to approach Yi Wanwan as he roared lowly. Seeing her lying on the carpet with flushed cheeks and ragged breathing, the white tiger seemed a little nervous as it paced several times around her. Roar, another roar, yet she didn't show any response. The servants at home usually remained in the servants' room unless they were called upon. They typically didn't walk around freely. Furthermore, Great White was roaring so fiercely in the living room which deterred anybody from rushing over, lest they send themselves to a quick death. The white tiger kept roaring and pacing around her for a long time. Finally, it got closer to her and placed its enormous beastly body on her and laid down, embracing her in its warm white coat, its long tail covering her exposed calves. Meanwhile, the black car traveled like a ghost in the stormy and dark night. Through the rearview mirror, Sooo looked uneasily at Han, who kept his intentions secret. He thought his master wouldn't return home today, but he actually left the banquet early at 8. He knew his master's greatest taboo was the loss of control. And right now, Yuan was becoming more and more difficult to understand, both her actions and her as a person. It was great if she was well behaved, but even he could tell that Yuan was testing his master's limits, bit by bit. Once she hit his limits, no matter how well she acted, it would be of no use. Shortly, the car finally reached Jean Garden. The living room was strangely quiet. The master had left Si Lu Te at home on purpose, and he guessed with Yuan's love of the beast, she would have made unnecessarily excited noises around it the whole night, but presently, there wasn't a single movement inside. Sooo took Han's coat and followed him into the living room suspiciously. The second the two of them entered, they saw a pile of white hair on the vintage, totem-printed floor with Yuan curled up against Si Lu Te, hugging its claws with both hands as she mumbled, "Mommy." Roar. Hearing the footsteps, Si Lu Te, who was locked in Yuan's embrace as she called for her mother, gave a deep roar. "Dumb humans. Finally, you came back. Do you still want your wife or not?" Chapter 226, her pulse. Soo-yi's eyes widened in disbelief, unable to believe the scene in front of him. Damn! Si Lu Te, who hates being with humans, is actually lying right next to Yuan obediently. He's not even trying to tear her apart while she grabs its hair and hugs its paws. But why does it seem like there's something wrong with Yuan? Soo-yi's heart was confused. He had just realized something was off with Yuan when the figure next to him was already in the middle of hurrying over and carrying Yuan away from Great White. Go get old son. Yes. Soo-yi's sweat poured down in streams as he rushed out obediently. If something untoward happened to Yuan, everyone in this house would have to be buried with her. Half an hour later, the entire Jean garden was brightly lit. All the servants stood in a row in the living room, trembling with terror in their white faces. A black car stopped outside the house and a young man helped an elderly person with white hair out. Sooo hurriedly led the way to the house with the two people behind him. The entire Jean garden was shrouded by a dark cloud. When Old Sun and his chief disciple arrived, all they saw was a girl lying in bed with Han sitting by the bedside. The girl clutched his hand tightly. After they got a clear glimpse of the girl's appearance, a trace of astonishment flashed in the disciple's eyes. This girl was so beautiful that even when she looked so weak and her cheeks were flushed, she was still extremely stunning. No wonder this master, who was said to be ruthless, was so worried about her. It really was like the idiom, beautiful women suffer unhappy fates. I wonder what illness this girl's contracted. Old Sun, please. Han said as he wriggled his hand out of the girl's embrace. However, even if he moved just an inch away from her, the girl became visibly distressed and tightened her grip, as if she was holding on to her only lifeline. Han looked at the elderly man and asked, "Could you take her pulse like this?" Old Sun coughed lightly, "I'm afraid not, it'll affect the results." He thought he'd been called to this house because this young master's body could no longer take his long-term insomnia. Who would have guessed that the one who needed his care wasn't him but this girl? Han hesitated for a bit, then forcefully pulled his arm out and placed the girl's hand on the little pillow lightly. The moment he pulled his arm away, tears of suffering rolled down from the girl's eyes. Old Sun didn't dare treat this matter lightly. Instead of making his disciple take her pulse, he did it personally. Old Sun took an exceptionally long time to take her pulse that his disciple became more and more nervous, wondering what illness was so tricky that even his master had trouble. Old Sun took her pulse thrice, then finally turned to Han and said, Mr. C, don't worry. This lady is feverish due to the cold weather. She just needs some antipyretic and will recover very soon. After old Sun was done with his diagnosis, Si-han glanced at the girl who was in so much pain that she dampened the pillow with her tears. He immediately repositioned his hand, allowing her to hold on to it again. Only then did he turn to the elderly man and reply, I'm afraid I'm going to have to trouble you. Old Sun, please stay the night, just in case. Hearing the conversation between the two of them, the disciple next to old Sun opened his eyes wide. All this for a mere fever. He could have used a thermometer to take her temperature at home for a small illness like this. But he actually called for the secluded renowned doctor, Sun Bai Chao, to observe her overnight. The disciple opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but his master quickly turned to him and shook his head, indicating for him to keep silent. Following this, the elderly man stood up and said, Thank you for your hospitality then. Chapter 227, Soft, Comfortable, and So Nice. It was already morning by the time Yuanwan woke up. There was silence in the big room. The weather outside was clear, the sky was a wash of azure blue, and there was a fresh scent of grass and soil lingering in the air. Some kind of bird was perched on a branch, chirping in high spirits. Very swiftly, it flapped its wings and flew far away. You're awake. Yuanwan was still in a daze, staring at the little bird which had flown afar when she was brought back to the present by the deep voice. Yuanwan turned and realized that Si-han was seated on the chair next to her bed. He held a few documents with one hand while the other was held firmly in her embrace, and she had even unconsciously pressed it against her chest in her sleep, not letting him go. Yuanwan was stunned and quickly released Si-han's hand. She wanted to speak but realized that her throat felt as if it had been burnt by fire, her lips were also dry and chapped. Don't move. Si-han placed the documents down, wet a cotton swab and dotted it on her lips. Then, he helped her up and raised the cup of water sitting by her bedside to her lips. Yuanwan opened her mouth instinctively as the water flowed and moistened her parched throat, instantly soothing her. What happened to me? Yuanwan asked suspiciously after finishing the water. Wasn't I supposed to be doing my practice questions in the living room? Why am I in the bedroom all of a sudden? And why's the sun out? Fever, Si-han replied, as his face turned slightly colder. You didn't feel it yourself? As her fever had just subsided and she had just woken up, Yuanwan still felt quite dazed and she mumbled, I did feel a little uncomfortable last night, dizzy and lightheaded, but I thought it was due to the math questions I was doing, so I didn't give it much thought. Sensing Si-han's cold expression, Yuanwan instinctively hid under the blanket. Si-han didn't say anything. His cold aura dissipated momentarily, then came back in full force as he pressed the bell next to him, ringing for his servants. After Yuanwan recovered her composure, she looked him strangely. Why was he here the moment I woke up? Did he just happen to come over at the right time? Shortly, there was someone knocking at the door and a servant walked in with a bowl of white porridge. Si-han reached out his arms and presented the porridge to her personally. Eat something. Yuanwan wasn't sure, but it seemed like although Si-han still looked terrifying, his tone was much gentler than usual. Yuanwan looked at the plain and bland white porridge, obviously uninterested in it, but in the end, she furrowed her brows and swallowed it down obediently. Are you still feeling sick? Yuanwan shook her head. She just didn't have much energy. A long silence ensued, and neither of them said a word. Yuanwan muttered something to break the silence. I seem to have dreamt about something last night. What did you dream about? As she recalled the memory, she said, one was a nightmare, one was a beautiful dream. I don't remember the nightmare, but the dream was really beautiful. Seeing Yuanwan's enchanted expression, Si-han looked at her. Really? Yuanwan nodded. I dreamt that great white let me touch its paws. They were soft, comfortable, and so nice. When she woke up and realized the claws she was hugging in the dream were Si-han's, she was somewhat disappointed. A certain someone who was mistaken for Great White and was trapped in her embrace the entire night. Si-han took a deep breath, rubbed his forehead and carried the porridge away. He said, "Get some rest." As he turned, he said, "You can go home when you've recovered." It wasn't until Si-han had walked out of the room that Yuan reacted to what he just said. "What exactly happened when I was unconscious?" Si-han actually agreed to let me go home. Chapter 228, Open 3,000 harems. Yuan instantly felt alive the moment she found out she could return home. She took her temperature, called the elderly doctor to take her pulse again, and after making sure she was totally fine, Si-han indeed called on Sooo to drive her back. Probably because she was very homesick and had just escaped death, she felt a sudden nervousness thinking about how she was finally able to see her parents. After they went bankrupt, her parents sought shelter at her maternal uncle's place and were still living there today. Her uncle, Liang Jiahao, was mediocre at best and extremely incompetent. He graduated from an average university, didn't have any special abilities and hadn't accomplished anything in life. Even his wedding was paid for and arranged by her parents, and the house he lived in after his marriage was also one of the properties under Yuan's father's name. After all these years, under her father's financial assistance, he became a small boss of his own company and led a comfortable life. Her auntie was a full-time housewife and stayed home to help her daughter with her studies. If she remembered correctly, her cousin Liang Shihan should be in senior year now, preparing for the college entrance exams with her. Liang Shihan was arrogant and willful. She loved competing with Yuan. Whenever Yuan got any new toys, Liang Shihan schemed of ways to get them as well. Her mother loved her younger brother ever since they were little, and she was also very loving towards her niece. Basically, any gifts she gave to Yuan would also be given to Liang Shihan. She treated Liang Shihan almost like her own daughter. Yuan was so jealous that she quarreled with her mother over this several times. After the incident, her mother's first instinct was, naturally, to flee to her beloved younger brother. Yuan was deep in thought. Shortly, the car arrived at a group of villas. The surroundings and plants were aesthetically pleasing. Each villa stood alone with a little garden. Yuan quickly asked Sooo to stop the car when she spotted the familiar building from afar. Just as she was about to get off the car, Sooo in the driver's seat suddenly turned to her, aggrieved. Yuan had goosebumps looking at his expression. "Housekeeper Soo, do you have something to say?" "What does he want?" looking like a dying man saying his last words. Sooo continued staring at her, aggrieved. "Ms. Yi, I'm still single, I don't have a wife." Yuan, "So?" "Sooo, at least let me live till the day I get married, deal?" "I was just thinking that Master had his own principles and limits, but within a night, Master actually allowed Yuan to return home. As he left the house today, he requested the Master for more personnel to follow Yuan closely, but his master only sent him alone to drive her. This means he doesn't have any intentions of keeping a close watch on Yuan's actions. But if she disappears, my head will be on the chopping block." The corners of Yuan's lips twitched. "If you're worried, you can come along with me." "Really, I can." Soo's eyes lit up. "Yuan, sure. At most, my parents would just mistake you for my boyfriend." "Soo, I think I'll just stay in the car and wait for you." Yuan looked at the horizon and replied plainly, "Don't worry, I won't run away because I don't want to die yet too, if I really get my freedom, one day. I want to have 180 young gigolos and open 3,000 harems, Soo. What the? My dear girl. Please don't say something so scary, alright? Most importantly, I can't believe she actually said such things for me to hear. I don't want to hear any bit of this." Did the fever hit her brain? Yuan saw Soo's terrified expression and curled her lips into a smile. She knew Soo wouldn't dare tell Si-han about this, so it didn't matter that Soo knew about it. Anyway, whether she played pretend or not, Si-han's underlings wouldn't believe a thing she said. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.